Welcome along, one and all, to League of Europe Season 11. This is the 7th round of the Division 1 Championship, coming to you from Baku. The Azerbaijan Grand Prix is getting underway very shortly. We are just getting ourselves loaded in to the qualifying session for what is surely what it always seems to be one of the most chaotic and eventful races in any league racing series. To take you through the action here tonight is my, hopefully by now, familiar lightly Scottish accent, and alongside me in the commentary box this time is Jonathan once again. How are you doing, mate? Yes, indeed, of course. Here at Baku, typically it's a qualifying session that tends to potentially be one of the less important ones because of how easy it is to overtake in the race with all the DRS zones and with all the chaos that can be thrown up. But anyway, you still want to be in the best possible position, so this qualifying session is something the drivers are going to be leaning on heavily. Oh. Absolutely not. I think that was down at turn 5 there. That's where the yellow flag has been left. So that's a disastrous start indeed to his session. And, well, we will continue on, but without the 18th man in the Mercedes to continue on his lap. So Shadowglow is the first to get this underway in the Williams and, well, was so close to the win last time out in Catalonia, finishing second. Put a last lap move on Cucumber for that second place, but just fell short of the win. He is just 9 points shy of the championship lead, so he can certainly move into position. Watching him now coming out of the first sector, now turn 5, and the traction then very difficult as he gets away onto the brakes into turn 7, short shifting it into third gear, looking for all the traction that he has, then through the fearsome castle section, heading up there now onto the throttle pedal once again. Out of turn 12, then you got a sequence of 3 left-handers. First 2 are flat out, 13 and 14 on the brakes downhill into turn 15. 16 is next then. End of the second sector is a 115 flat through the first 2 sectors, and we'll see what the time is going to be to the end of the lap. It is full throttle all the way to the line. As the speed continues to climb, he's going to get up over 200 miles an hour, well over 300 kilometers an hour. You can see the battery running down as the car runs at full throttle to the line, and it's a 1:39.5 to open up that session. That is a relatively fast banker lap to get this kicked off. Yes, indeed. So very, very tight at the top of the timesheets. And we're looking further down the track to see if we are going to see any cars setting times. But I'm not sure who's the furthest along on a lap. Might be one of the Alpines. Oh, that would be Campbell, who has already got a lap time in. So I'm not sure. But he seems to be on a slow lap then, because he's 15 seconds off the pace to the first two sectors. I think Verstappen is behind and is going relatively quick. Gets a big snapper on coming out of turn 16. We'll see what he does now on the run up towards the line, up into 8th gear, of course, full throttle all the way through here. Of course, he did take that race win way back in Silverstone, is right up there in the championship standings. We'll see what the time is going to be. It's a 1:40.1, and that puts him P4 for the moment then, but 6 tenths off, nearly 7 tenths off the fastest time at the moment. Shadowglow's early banker holding firm for the moment. I don't think he's actually on a fast lap at the moment, because his first sector was very far off the pace and he's still at 100% battery. I'm not sure if anyone is on a flyer, but there are a lot of drivers that are on outlaps. So we'll see who's going to be the first to come over the line to get it kicked off. I think it's the AlphaTauri of RLPs is coming down the main straight now. So on board with P's heading through the middle of the lap, we have been having some little bit of audio difficulties, which explains the near minute silence that we just had. It seems to have been resolved though, so we can carry on pretty much as normal. So we are watching RLPs, as aforementioned, heading into turn 15, lock it all up, and then rotating the car aggressively, heading through the middle of that corner. He goes to the second sector in 1:15.5, which is a respectable time, probably putting him around about where the Backies and Verstappens of the world are as he heads it through. We'll see, of course, wing levels do tend to change the fortunes of this last sector quite a lot. You can see as the speeds climb, some of them will climb much higher than others as they head down the main straight now. So he's with DRS wide open, full throttle to the line once again, and is a 1:39.9, a very fast final sector, and I do think Pease is running quite low wings, which may explain that fast ending to the lap. Lifeboat and the Red Bull goes 5th, 140 point flat. That's where most of the times seem to have gone, but really it is still Shadowglow and Campbell that stand out far and away above the rest, and we'll see if any of the other drivers can topple them in the second half of this session. Wow. And Cucumber, I was also following him along on his lap, and he was 2/10 faster than Campbell through the first two sectors. So that slipstream from the Alpines certainly making the difference in the end. But you can certainly see Cucumber's raw pace, and he was also looking at a race victory last week, but ultimately went to pay on the last lap of the race, but still certainly showing some tremendous speed and raw pace as we see them. Watching Sweet Crown, who has a huge moment heading through turn 15, and ultimately bleeding quite a lot of time as a result and getting on the throttle hard. Lifeboat has retired. Looks like he's come off actually, heading through the last couple of short kinks. We'll see him now on board with Sweet Crown, and yes, looks like he's just gone into the wall at the outside of the last major corner. Well, it's not somewhere you'd expect to see crashes coming out of 19, but Lifeboat presumably getting it all wrong and ultimately putting pay to his session in, I assume, rather dramatic fashion, because that's a very unusual place to come off there. Aye. Wow, so incredibly close at the top, and I think Shadowglow, he missed the apex of turn 16 just at the start of the final sector, and ultimately I think that is what did it. He certainly would have beaten Cucumber. I'm not sure about Campbell, because that slipstream that the Alpines run was immense, and Campbell, who was slower than either of the two drivers behind him through the first two sectors, making the difference on the straight, thanks to his championship leading teammate, who is yet to get a lap time on the board himself, so watch out for him in the end of the session. Verstappen to the line, goes fourth, 139.677. That's a strong lap. Still though, those top three look to be in a world of their own at the moment then. As I was watching, Nuth has come off at the first corner at the start of his final flying lap, so it looks like there won't be any improvement for him. And next up, I believe, is going to be the championship leader, the three-time race winner this season, Russell, coming up to the line now and getting things started. Watch the clock here. This is going to be so important. Any slight mistake could seriously set him back, because there is no banker, no time on the board. He's got all the pressure on him, all the eyes on him as we watch him on stream with him on the big screens, and we'll see what kind of time he can pull out. His teammate has that provisional pull time of a 139.224. Watch that number. We'll see if it will be threatened. Russell navigating the start of the first sector using the maximum width of the track. Take an eye to the top right corner of the screen. It's a reasonably fast first sector, but not lightning fast. Still though, he takes a really nice line through 5 and 6, closing off that turn 5 to open up the 6th corner of the track, popping over that curb at 7. Then you can cut it, the game allows that. Then the castle section, then you wince as you head through there. It didn't look quite as committed as we saw from Shadowglow, but he is nice and solid on the throttle on the way out of turn 12. So we continue onwards. Let's see where this is going to go. He's downhill now for one of the toughest corners on the track. Turn 15, he goes over the white line to set it up and get as wide of a line as he can. The second sector time, is it fast? It's pretty damn fast indeed. He is just a little bit up on what Shadowglow was doing, but only very slightly. So we'll see what he can do now with the throttle pens. Bravery be damned as he opens it up through turn 19. No coming a cropper as we saw from Lifeboat earlier. It is all full throttle. He has no slipstream as Campbell did, but nevertheless he will continue on then. Watch the time here. It will surely be in the top 4. Will it be on pole? No, it is only 4th. A 139.386. Not enough for that pole time. We'll see if anyone can challenge that Campbell time as we see the final laps coming in. What a time by Campbell, but it's not over yet. Cucumber is flying along very nicely himself then. He's 800ths up. He'd need to find more. It would have all been in that turn 16 if he's managed to get a better run. There was a bit of a wiggle, a bit of oversteer. The rear end threatening to step away out of the final critical traction zone, but we'll see if he's found the 10th and a bit necessary to snatch away this pole position. Coming up to the line now as the session expires. Watch the clock. Is it pole? It is pole! Oh my goodness, he snatches it away right at the death from Campbell. A 139.184, just a couple of hundredths of a second in it. I said he needed to find more in the last sector, and he did. Pretty special laps from the top two in the end. But my oh my, the man who has come so close to victory multiple times throughout this season has put a scorcher on the board there. Cucumber snatches pole My oh my, under all that pressure, he got it done and he has the box seat for the race coming up.
Yeah, remarkable place, and he's not finished outside the top six. He's got a couple of P2s and P3 under his belt, but yet to get himself the wins and set himself up well with the pole here. But let's run quickly through the order. So Cucumber on the top with Campbell P2, Shadow Glow and Russell next up. Becky, Verstappen 5 and 6, then Pease, Chris, Gary, Lightfoot finishing out that top 10. Brown slash Miles and June next up. Then Luke, Lou, Zara, Saki, Rocco with his invalidation for that spin earlier on, wasn't it actually? Despite the fact we had only a couple of drivers invalidated and crashing out, still plenty did not have time to send a lap, or just, I don't know, never went out for a valid lap. But yeah, a very, very nice start to the race, especially those top four drivers just in a league of their own. I think there was about tenth and a half, 2/10 separated the top four, and then it's that much again before you get to the next driver down to the five. So those really separate themselves out from the rest of the field.
Yeah, unusually large field spread here, but I guess that is to be expected here at Azerbaijan. Gaps, well, they are going to happen because the track is just so technical and difficult and has so many pitfalls, landmines, if you will, out there on the circuit. We are pretty much nearing the halfway point of this season now, and the championship still very finely poised, so that sets things up very nicely for what hopefully is going to be a wildly action-packed race later on. Of course, all the drivers selecting their final strategies, tyre allocations, the fuel loads as well, which we can't see, but some drivers, they like to overfuel, some drivers like a light car at the start of the race and just try and manage it from there. We'll see how everyone differs or is similar. Nevertheless, we will see as they set off on the formation lap. Then it will be 26 laps ahead of us, and Jonathan, a real mixed bag of tyre strategies there. Absolutely. So we continue on the formation lap. So Cucumber leading them round, and you did make a very good point about that difference in tyre strategy amongst the front two runners on the front row there. Shadowglow's really got the crucial job there. Campbell, no matter what, he may be able to just fire it off the line, we will see, but the tyres will have a grip disadvantage at the start of the race, and it does give Cucumber a great chance. We'll see if he can nail that getaway. Of course, he nailed that final run in quali, but can he do it in the race? Leading from Lakes the Flag at Baku is exceptionally difficult, so we'll see if he can pull it off. Remember, of course, 2 mandatory pit stops here in the League of Europe. 19 cars now as they come up to the grid. One of the Alpines, I guess that's Russell, just shooting off into the distance and taking the grid slot early. Hopefully for him, his tyres don't lose too much temperature as everyone comes up to the grid now. Cucumber just about getting it parked up. Everyone else not far behind. Again, as Jonathan mentioned, we have all 3 tyres on offer here, so plenty of, I imagine, contrasting fortunes to be had at the start of this race. We are raring to go racing though here at Azerbaijan, here at Baku. We look to get proceedings underway as they build up. Then the lights starting to come on now. We have 4, 5 lights. They leave the grid, and Baku, I cannot see at all what's going on thanks to the camera angle. We are now back, and Cucumber did convert that pole position and is shot off into the distance. Campbell trying to fend off the cars behind, and Shadowglow wasn't able to make it round the outside of turn 1 as they all stack up, running pretty much double file. Heading through turn 2, looks relatively clean still, all the way down the order. Of course, there can be little chips of front wing potentially flying, but Cucumber has the lead, and Shadowglow now has second. He moves past Campbell on the run up towards turn 3. He does have that critical spot behind Cucumber, and now he's got to work to stay in contention. Everyone flying through then, holding formation at the moment. Doesn't look like everyone is looking to duck out for overtakes, and in fact it looks relatively clean going then as they head into the middle sector. A couple of squabbles near the back of the field there with Hazara, Jim going backwards on the medium tyres. Saki behind then ahead of the hard runners who begin to fall back. Sweet Crown is held pretty well on the hards, but Cucumber has gone off the road. He's trying to get away using the tyres to the limit and is teetering on the edge of that 1 second, though Shadowglow using battery trying to stay in contention. Pease now runs 5th, but as you mentioned in qualifying, with the top 4 setting themselves apart, so far the same seems to be holding for the race. They have already established a bit of a gap then. Cucumber from Shadowglow, the 2 soft runners, followed by the 2 Alpines, the 2 medium runners, Cabell and Russell. So it's up to Pease to try and chase this down, burning a bit of battery, trying to get moving then. He squirts the throttle, heading out of turn 4, snapping out the rear end, trying to keep pace, but that gap is already opened and it's going to be tough to close with Cucumber driving things over at the front. They all come through then. We do have yellows, and that's Lars. Lars van der Linden has come off then. That must be through at turn 5 then, and VSC's been deployed early on. That won't change the race situation much, but Lars, who we haven't seen much of this season, not since the first round really, and another disaster show for the Haasman, and just 2 laps in and he is already gone from this race. And interestingly, I picked up on the man in 16th place, Luke, who appears, if I'm not mistaken, to not have a front wing on the car, so I wonder if there was an altercation down there. he has to take advantage of those soft tyres that he's got underneath them, and I was wincing certainly as he made that move. It was bold, but ultimately very nicely executed, and he has Sweet Crown on the hards. That's another move he's got to be very, very eager to make. Up at the front, I do want to comment on the VSC restart. Shadowglow seemed to lay off Cucumber intentionally, maybe hoping to get a better run, but it didn't work, and he dropped out of the DRS range with a lot of battery on this lap. He's managed to get back into the two Alpine swap places down the main straight. Russell using that DRS, and you imagine these two are going to try and relay almost their way back to the race leading duo. Chris gets past Baki, and Baki under so much pressure down the straight ultimately cannot hold firm, and that is what a DRS train does when you are sitting at the front of it. So he goes backwards, and that's going to be a major setback for him. Chris, who got past Verstappen, now got past Baki, and now he leads this little group. He's has managed to get a little ways up the road from this lot, managed the safety car restart very, very nicely. So he now runs 5th on his own, and has just got to churn out the best laps he can possibly pull off. Everyone else filtering through, but we're seeing, relatively compared to most other league races, quite a lot of fractures in the train. This may have been breeded by the safety car restart, may well have been just pace differences between the drivers, or just tyre differences. It's hard to tell exactly what it could be attributed to, but what we can say is that the top four, I should say, continue to pull away, and Russell has done a superb job on this lap against the two soft runners, working his way back in. We're back from a duo, back to a quartet for the lead. Well, I'm certainly not going to be giving the advice to these 19 or now 18 drivers out on circuit, but what I will say is that I do think we are starting to see we are not 5 laps into this race, but I think we're already seeing a crossover between these soft and medium tyres. Russell looks so threatening now behind Cucumber, and Cucumber, as we see from him in the past as well, he is reluctant to burn that battery, and Russell's going to fly past down the main straight. He's not going to fully clear him until Cucumber actually eases off the throttle pedal and lets the man now in second, the championship leader, into P2 in the race. Swappards down the main straight, Sweet Crown on Gary, so the hard tyres look pretty solid too, and Yassir on the softs has decided to get rid of them at just 5 laps in, so he will come in. Look who had that damage has gone on to a set of the mediums, and we'll see what he does with that in this middle stint for him already. It's mediums for Yassir as well. Looks like that's a very strong race tyre, because Russell already looks to have Shadowglow beat in terms of grip. closing his way down, and I think, yeah, those mediums looking very, very strong here as Cucumber comes up to threat. So those two Alpines, they lost contact in the first couple laps, but now they've come right back into play in this fight for the lead. And the cars behind, not too far away either. Pease is not conceding anything to the leaders because the soft tyres are starting to fall away. Yes, and oh, my apologies. Yes, indeed, we are now finally getting to see, I think, tyre deg very high here by the looks of it, because we're getting more drivers opting for the hard tyres. We have a move for the lead. Russell takes it over from Shadowglow. His pace appeared to be fading, and Pease, evidence of that, he's used all of his battery, but on the upside, he has managed to get his way across, and I think it is to do with the diminishing pace of the former race leader Shadowglow, which is starting to bunch things up, and I think that undercut could be very powerful here. So watch out for the likes of Verstappen and Kress, who now get the free rein. They will struggle a bit to heat the tyres up, especially Verstappen on those hards, but we'll see what they can do on this outlap. Keep a very close eye on the gap to the cars in front. So I imagine we could see another very busy pit lane at the end of the 7th lap, but you can see how much the softs are starting to go away because Shadowglow is now having to work very hard to stay with the championship and race leader. In the gap 0.8 of a second, just trying to hold on to the DRS zone, but I think surely he is going to have to box on this lap because the pace has just fallen away. He doesn't quite have the grip, and Russell is simply just driving away from him. He may be able to spare it with a better battery and hold on to that DRS, but I imagine it's going to be short-lived. We'll see if we will see more pit stops at the start of this lap. Campbell is looking very threatening too on the back of Shadowglow. Will we see pit stops amongst this race-leading group? For Russell, it won't be the case, and neither for Shadowglow. So these guys up front, Cucumber has lost the DRS. He's looking to extend as Campbell goes inside and gets P2. It's an Alpine 1-2. They swoop to the front of this race as Pease comes in from the back of the train. Gary's in as well, and for Pease, this is going to be a good indicator as to where he stands relative to those that have already made that pit stop. But I've been watching Verstappen's progress, and he has made a lot of ground on this lap on the cars just in front. So as Pease emerges from the pit lane, then he's not going to be far away at all. Verstappen is right there, just out of range. Campbell and Shadowglow are still battling away then, as I think Shadowglow may have made a bit of an error, I'm not sure. Heading through turn number 3, he now runs in 4th position in that Williams, so struggling out there for the moment. Looks completely damage free at the very least, but they're starting to stretch, and I imagine that these 4 could well be under real threat, and I think the entire race may come together here because of the powerful undercut here at Baku. We'll see if he can monster up an in-lap here, but it's going to be very, very difficult. We can see further back as Russell makes a very important pass heading into turn 7 on Nuth. And I say very important because he now has a clear track to try and shake off this entire train. Pease must know how crucial this is, because any separation could be so detrimental for his chances of a race win. He knows this immediately and draws alongside and past Nuth, heading through the middle of the second sector. That was inside of turn 12, and he looks to have just about managed to stay with Russell. May have seen like insignificant overtakes on a car on aging, ailing tyres, but that was very, very important. And now Cucumber has that responsibility, but he's stuck behind. He's going to have to wait for the straight, maybe burn that battery. Campbell in from the lead, and Sweet Crown is going to be promoted, extending on those hard tyres. We have another retirement. That's Gary in the castle section. That is, he's come off in the McLaren. Horrible for him. And we'll see now as Campbell may have got a bit of a lifeline. No, he's still going to come out right in the middle of that train, I think. Gary immediately out, but Campbell, no, he is going to get saved. Look at this. He's going to come out directly just behind his teammate. He slots into what will be a net P2. Sweet Crown, though. What's going on here? Okay, I was going to see if he was sitting behind the safety car. They should be able to still overtake, and they do. So Sweet Crown is going to have to go on. Surely we'll get that first pit stop out the race, but Campbell, that was so crucial to get that one in, get those hard tyres on, and thanks to a very well timed full safety car, thanks to Gary coming off, he's still right in the mix with the freshest tyres in the group.
Yeah, certainly. I think Campbell are going to be slipping Gary a five on that one. That has helped him an awful lot this race. Sweet Crown him taking the opportunity to fix on his safety car. I'm not sure whether coming back onto the track for him. They're going to want to get that fresh tyres onto the car under the safety car. A bit of a godsend for them. Lucan what's good as well. You can see the highway around here really has been quite massive compared to some of the other tracks. Stops just right off the extra pace the undercut. So incredibly powerful. Safety car again had a really bunch of field. That initial top four we had. Cucumber's down in 10th. I mean, he's dropped a long way down there. Come 8th, I'd suspect, from the Sweet Crown. Having said that, actually, no, he might be too far back. You're right, might remain in 10th. I think Sweet Crown is going to end up. What's the issue? Safety car, pit stop, time loss.
There is one thing I do need to point out, is that the reason why Cucumber is in 10th and why so many drivers came into the pit lane on that last lap, they have served their second mandatory stop already. Cucumber is one of them. He's the second highest driver who's done that. Cress was in the perfect position to do that, as Sweet Crown goes to the pit lane himself. And I'm even intrigued as to what some of these drivers in the front group may do, and several are going to the pit lane as well because they want to get that second mandatory pit stop out of the way already and bank on taking tyres to the end of the race. Sweet Crown is unable to do that. He will emerge on fresh mediums in 6th place, but Verstappen and, well, Nuth was forced to, but Verstappen is the very interesting one. Cucumber did the same thing a lap ago, but Verstappen is actually going to gain more track possession from doing this, and he's going to come out right next to Cress, actually maybe just slightly in front as he re-emerges then. Yes, he does come out right in front of the Aston Martin, so Verstappen has been catapulted into a very strong position here. He, Cress and Cucumber, all on fresh hards, all looking to try and take them the full distance remaining in the Grand Prix. And while the drivers in front, the field's going to come back together because they're already sitting behind the safety car and they have another pit stop to make. This is a very, very interesting strategic development we have going on here, because essentially we have two separate races now with drivers that have not done the mandatory stop and those that have further back. Hopefully that is to be the case. The only driver in the back half of the field that hasn't served their mandatory pit stop, their second stop, is Doom, but I imagine he is going to serve it right here and now. So he goes into the pit lane, he'll give up a couple of positions, but he will also have that prospect of being able to take those tyres all the way to the end of the race. So we are left with the top 7 have done 1 stop, and everyone behind has done 2, and the only objective now is to keep the tyres going all the way to the end of the race. Hazara, as you mentioned, is going to have an especially hard time on the mediums. But you'd imagine, given the presumable low tyre wear of the hard tyre, that white wall tyre that you see most of the drivers on at this point, they are going, I would say, they should make the end of the race. We will see. But as for the leaders, they have a double problem there because their tyres are actually, for the most part, not much, but slightly older than those that have done the second stop. So you would think they've got to get the hammer down in these opening laps. But unless some unforeseen separations in the train occur, it's going to be very difficult for them to pull away from the likes of Verstappen, who's got much fresher slightly fresher tyres, and good enough pace to potentially stay in it. So you'd imagine those 2 Alpines at the front, as well as P, Shadowglow, Baki, Sweet Crown and Nuth behind, they've got to be hoping that some sort of split occurs. Maybe one driver makes a mistake, that they can use that to pull away, because otherwise, if the DRS train gets stuck, you're looking at them having to make up a full pit stop worth in the closing laps of the race. That is an uphill battle that they should not wish to fight. It was a good restart by the Alpines, but Pease did a very good job of reacting to it, and that means that the splits that they would have hoped to force haven't quite happened. The field still very much intact. It's Hazara in that Haas that looks very, very racy. Of course, he's the one that's got to be managing tyres. We'll see if he can keep those mediums afloat, but for now, he is all over the back of Chris in front of him as they head to the end of lap 13. That's half distance in this Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and many of these drivers have already done both the stops they need to make, so they are free to push all the way to the checkered flag. Sweet Crown is doing just that early. He He draws up and alongside and through on Baki. Heading down the main straight then, he has that place. Further back, Cress is up on Hazara, who's made another spot into P9 now in the Haas. He moves up again, hits the wall through turn 1, and Cress is going to come right back past. So Hazara, a critical error, and he's going to almost park it up at the side of the road and is going to let the entire field go past. So a critical error after that charge. He now is set back, and there's the split that we were looking for. Verstappen's the most advanced driver that has done the second mandatory stop, and he has a gap to Cress behind. So Cress and Cucumber are going to have to work to try and chase that gap down, because Verstappen being in that lead group is very dangerous for them. Oh! I'm trying to see if he does have damage on that Williams car. It's hard to tell because, yeah, when he had to swerve to avoid the back of the Alpine in front, he did hit the wall. But he does seem to be continuing on somewhat as is, keeping himself within range. Campbell is up behind Russell, and these two are putting Pease under a bit more pressure as the AlphaTauri rushes and scrambles trying to keep up. Sweet Crown is the next driver to attack, and he goes to the left hand side. He's going to be clear and gone immediately there, and he's going to close up on the top two who are going to swap. Campbell takes the lead away from Russell. Sweet Crown closing rapidly. Look at this, he's inside to turn 1, doesn't quite break his late as Russell, who holds on round the outside of T1, keeping a hold of that second place, but they bunched right up there. That is the power of the slipstream and the DRS down the main straight as they continue onwards. So looking further back, still everyone intact in the train. It's Baki now who's got himself in between. So Verstappen, we've missed it, but he has managed to get past Baki, and he's got another opportunity to force a split here because Baki cannot quite match that pace with slightly older tyres, and Cress has been unable to find a way back. Cress did such a good job of hauling Verstappen back, but now he may have to do it all again with Cucumber watching and waiting in behind, still remaining patient as always in the Alfa Romeo, waiting for his moment to strike. The race victory is a little ways up the road, but he's still very much in the hunt. So he remains in P10 for the moment, but he's surely going to be hoping that Chris finds a way past Baki soon. He's not as close as maybe as he would have wanted. Baki's had a very good run through the middle sector because the top drivers aren't going to be flying along either. Their tyres will start to be not going off, but past their best certainly by this point, as Campbell extends that gap to Russell to about 0.7 of a second, but you'll see how much it goes down, and in fact Russell is going to have to get the hammer hammer down the straight, because Sweet Crown's pace in those mediums is forcing these two Alpines to work. Oh! Campbell, it was exactly the same situation that we saw from Shadowglow a couple of laps ago. Nearly went into the back of his teammate and had to avoid going wide at turn number 1. So he drops behind Pease now to 4th in line. So a fairly dramatic sequence of events for the Season 8 Division 1 champion. Then he now runs 4th. Now has Shadowglow behind him, Pease in front of him. They all run line astern on the circuit for the moment. Backy Cell and P8 is the critical one. Oh, do you want to jump in there? Sorry. Oh, Campbell Castle section. He's in it. Well, he is looking very, very good at the moment then. Kress is right behind Backy, and if he can find a way past, that bridges him right up towards Verstappen. Verstappen has been unable to use any pace advantage that he may have over Backy because he is bottlenecked behind the train in front, which is now beginning to build behind P. So the top two beginning to edge away at this point in the race, but their pit stops, I imagine, will be coming very soon. I don't think that Campbell's, even with the damage, was too premature, because they're getting to the point now, in maybe just a couple of laps, where they want to get off those tyres and maybe onto some softs. There's another pass for the lead as Sweet Crown comes back past Russell. These two are essentially, though, working together, trying to maximise both their pace as Cucumber makes a move down the main straight. He is drawn level with Cress. He always picks the right moment to strike as he heads side by side through turn 1. Cress trying to hold it round the outside then. He's just half a car length back, but he's going to have to concede that one into 2. And Cucumber has P5. He lights up the rear tyres coming out of 2, and Cress would be wise not to fight back, and he does indeed let the Alfa Romeo go. Another pass for the lead. Russell now from Sweet Crown, Nuth from Verstappen. We saw Backy come into the pit lane in Cucumber. That was a very important move, and it catapulted him to 3rd in that line of second mandatory pit stops, now to 2nd in the line and within range of Verstappen. So Cucumber, great move on Chris, and Chris ultimately just caught out by that offensive, and Cucumber now has a clear line of sight to the man that will soon become the race leader. Oh!
Luke crashes at the cut of second.
Full safety car.
Yeah, full safety car, as you mentioned, right on Luke's pit stop, sorted out nicely, and that will be our last lap. Crazy sprint. How long is this guy consistent on second slash Luke just even getting safe cars? He certainly could benefit, but how many non-race points in this? This is 11 fresh tyres tomorrow. The best Robin can get. He's not going to get a small not by the rest of the grid. Verstappen took all his guys out. I mean, my goodness, this could be a hard election.
It does indeed. We'll see, of course, as Rocco, he was just straddling that white line. He does decide to come in as well, as does Jim. So I was wondering if a safety car could throw things up in the air, and it certainly has. We'll see where everyone is going to emerge. Russell is still going to have that race lead. So the drivers that didn't pit under the first safety car now have had their normal service resumed, if you will. They now sit at the front of this race. Nuth has been brought right into contention all of a sudden. Staying out longer worked out wonders for the Ferrari man. So he now runs in P5, Verstappen P6. You sense that Verstappen and Cucumber, the likes of those guys, are going to feel aggrieved by that very, very inconvenient safety car for their prospects in this race, and they've got a long way ahead of them to try and get back to the leaders. Of course, there will be just a couple of laps on the tyres for Russell P's Sweet Crown and Shadow Glow, but nevertheless, it will be a disadvantage. Probably not very much, though. We will see Nuth in 5th place as the first of those on completely fresh rubber. Looking at the cars on track and where they're positioned, I think we'll get back to racing at the end of lap 22, so that will leave a 4-lap shootout to the checkered flag, hopefully completely uninterrupted, hopefully as incident-free as we can get. But Russell, he's looked to be arguably the fastest man all night, and he's finally been put in position, but P's behind, right in position, and we know how difficult it is to get away, and we know how easy it is to pass down that main straight. So, while Russell may be out in front then, the win is far from in his hands.
I don't know if you caught it on stream, but yeah, Luke crashed the pass section and Backy nowhere to go, crashed into the back of him, lost the tyre. Luke's so lucky to not get out of this race. He's now way down at P15, but has cost him not as dearly as Backy. Slash now is in contention for points. I was literally talking about despite being so far down, doing so many more stops, only one position of points. Now that is the points actually going to be a pit stop.
No, it is fairly unusual, but of course it does mean that other than the top 5, everyone has made more than their 2 mandatory pit stops. But yes, 5 stops is certainly something that is a bit of a rarity in league racing, but ultimately that last one probably very justified for Slash. He does give up only 1 position on track, but he does have completely fresh, soft tyres to lean on and try and go on the offensive at the final laps of this Grand Prix. We will have 4 laps left. It will be a shootout. We'll have DRS for the very finale, which will set up some moves for the lead. You'd imagine, though, the coveted spot is going to be somewhat paradoxically P2. I suspect that is probably going to be the place to be. Even no matter how fast Russell is, he's going to have to rely on mistakes from Pease if he wants to get that separation. And Pease reacted so well to that safety car restart last time out from the 2 Alpines. So we'll see if he can do that again. And if he can cope with the initial pace from Russell, once DRS is activated, you suspect that would open many doors for the AlphaTauri man.
himself what he's managed this time around. What can he do with Russell wiggling all over the shop? And when is he going to go? We saw where he went last time. Not right near the line, not right as soon as he could. A random spot. I do wonder, is it going to be any different this time? Will it be the same spot as last time? Is that what he's comfortable with? Or is it just got a good system for randomising it, catch out the drivers behind Russell and Heath? These two have raced each other plenty, same with Sweetground. These three, they know each other. So I imagine with that little bit of wanting to challenge your friends a little bit. And there we go, Russell getting a very good getaway. Half a second built, not a massive amount, weaving left, right. Not quite a perfect start, but not a bad one. He's going to partly down in 2/10 by the end. DRS, 4 laps left to go to come out of the station. She's going down as expected to run 80 short, past, I'm not misremembering. There's no real moves going on further up the order. It's going to be so tricky. Everyone on fresh tires. Top 4, they're on the slightly older tires, not hitting on the safety car on that two-stop strategy. Unlike the rest of the field, over the second and then hard to go for a move here. You've got to rely on mistakes to keep correcting. Back out for the second. Front to drive to ease over the takes the start. That happened actually. That cost him a couple of tenths. Remaining on the back. That 1 second.
Oh my goodness. Safety car out once again for the third time in this race. A full safety car. And I think this is the last lap it could possibly come out. Slash, bitterly disappointing. He was looking to go on the offensive, as we brought up, with fresh tyres on. And I'm just trying to work it out. I think the safety car can't come in at the end of the next lap, even with the field all bunched up. So I think we are just going to get... Is it even possible to have a 2-lap shootout? Well, we will see. It is... I think he was P12. Yeah, I do think that for the first time really in this race, pure track position is king here. You just need to be at the front if you're going to contest this one. But yeah, Rocco did have no problems chasing back. Oni is just getting back, coming out at turn 12 here. So he has now reattached with the rear of the field. We have 14 drivers now. There will be no more safety cars. Hopefully no more yellow flag running. It is just flat out to the flag, and Russell will take his third restart. Just getting confirmation. Hopefully, yes, safety car is in this lap, and Russell slows it down once again, and he will control yet another start. Now, he managed to get a bit of a jump on Pease on the last one, but the slipstream pulled Pease back into contention by the first corner, and Russell knows he needs any sort of gap that he can get, but it's all going to be on that last lap maybe for the top two. We will see. Reaction time going to be adamant here as they build up towards the final 2-lap shootout. And Russell keeping a slightly higher pace than before. Then all of a sudden he slows it right down. The field's going to check up here. Hopefully no front wings fly off. He's keeping it around about 90 kilometres an hour, around about 55 miles an hour. He drags the field over to the right, then back to the left. Oh, so slowly then. He's much less aggressive weaving than he was in the last restart. Building up the anticipation, surely, as well as everyone fanned across the track, ready to get this one going. He's leaving this one a bit later. Now he goes. He opens up the throttle. Pease loses a couple of car lengths, but he may be able to claw it back with a slipstream yet again. He's got to stay in contention. Shadowglow is looking to sweep ground. Breaks early into the first corner then. You can see a bit of wheel-to-wheel action coming down the straight towards turn one, and then they all filter through in single file. For the moment, there are soft runners looking to make early impressions. Crest looks and feints towards Cucumber. Can't quite find the move then as they barrel down towards turn 3 for the penultimate time. 25th out of 26 times. And Russell does convert that race lead and hold it, but there is far more treacherous roads ahead of him. Rocco and Luke dueling away at the back then. Rocco's already made up one place. He's looking for another behind Jim, who lights up the rear end coming out of turn number 4, but Russell still leads. He's keeping quite a bit of battery back. Of course, Pease does not have the benefit of DRS through the end, but you can see how hard he's pushing then as Russell gets a little bit wide and a little bit out of shape, heading through turn 7 then. These two starting to pull away. Sweet Crown trying to stay with. He's still got plenty of battery, and he's looking potentially to pick up any of the scraps left by the top two. 14 drivers still all in a lane. The last lap is where it will all come down to then, and Pease is doing just enough to stay with. He's used a bit more battery than Russell, but ultimately he still has plenty in hand. Russell's pace is truly phenomenal through this middle sector, but he hasn't done enough to shake off Pease just yet. Pease is going to have to burn that overtake. All these guys are going to be on the overtake button then. Nuth especially under pressure from Verstappen, who's got Cucumber pushing him round those final kicks at the end of the penultimate lap. We are coming to the last lap now. Russell leads. Pease is running such low wings, and he closes rapidly down the main straight. He now has Russell in his sights. Can he stay near enough to challenge on the run to the lane? We will see. Nuth, Verstappen, Cucumber barrel down then. That's where the gap has opened up between 4th and 5th, so it's 4 cars away and gone. But ultimately, I think it's going to come down to these top two, barring any major dramas then. Rocco makes a move on June. We're watching near the back of the field then. The Mercedes does have the AlphaTauri now in his mirrors, and he now runs 12th, making good ground on those fresh, soft tyres. But I cannot look away, surely, from this lead back. Russell has looked so imperious at times throughout this season. He has 3 race wins, and one of them, the last one, came after a last lap charge to snatch away the race win. He's making another last lap charge, this time from the front, and the gap begins to open. Pease made a small error heading out of the first sector at turn 6. The gap opens yet again. It's just over a second teetering now, and you sense that Pease's chances are beginning to diminish with furious pace from the front, from the race leader then. 9.5 tenths is the gap then, and he has more battery too. I think Russell has this one in hand. He's put together a phenomenal last 2 laps, and he's almost there. He's won half of feature Grand Prix in this season, and he looks at another one, the championship leader. He leads by 9 tenths still, and Pease is surely too far away to get back at him, because G. Russell 63, he took a win in Zandvoort in a situation much like this. He won in Monza with the last gas pass on Verstappen, and then last week with the last gas pass on Cucumber, and he's going to take another one. Russell to the lane. He wins in Baku by a margin of a tenth of a second. Up to the lane, it's Sweet Crown who nabs the second place for Pease on the lane. Shadowglow P4, Nuth, Verstappen, more photo finishes than Chris and Cucumber. We'll need to clear up the rest of the results because I couldn't run through them in time. But Russell, my oh my, sheer pace and brute force told in the end, and he was able to see that one through with a stunning last 2 laps.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That just showed had more pace than the rest of the drivers. That race pace just undeniable. Despite Pease's wings losing out that P2 in the end. Half a tenth, I think 48 thousandths, the exact Pease losing out to Sweet Crown. But yeah, what a last couple of laps. I was just shocked inside over it. I think you were talking there, and my goodness, chaos on the door, all the drivers pushing, giving it their absolute all. But in the end, it was G. Russell who just showed why he is the championship leader. either way. He's won 3 races, made it 4 now. Such strong results from him, ignoring the sprint race. And Silverstone, slight hiccup he had, always finishing in the top 5. I mean, he's finished in first more than any other position. 4 times he's won from just 7 feature races plus the 1 sprint race, which is not the strongest result, but here we go. Let's do a quick rundown through the order. Sweet Crown, of course, winning from P4. Sorry, G. Russell winning from P4 on grid. Sweet Crown P2, and P's finishing off that podium. Shadow Glow P4 in the end. Then New 5th, Verstappen 6th. Not massively, I think, for his championship, but not a bad result nonetheless. Chris P7, Cucumber P8. He really struggled towards the end of that race. Campbell P9 with the fastest lap, and Jude finishing out the top 10. Then we've got Rocco, Lifebout, Luke, and Saki with a last lap crash there. Slash, Baki, Zara, Gary, and Lars finish out those drivers. But my goodness, what a chaotic end, especially that last lap P2 pass. Came out of nowhere. I'll admit, I didn't see it coming until I saw 2 names. What have you done about you?
Yeah, I was obviously keeping an eye, trying to bring in a race winner, and I saw 2 cars running parallel on the run up to the lane, and a great result for Sweet Crown, who hasn't had the easiest of seasons up to this point, but that was an excellent result for him, and I think he may move up a couple of spots in the championship standings. It is, of course, doubtless to say that Russell will still have that lead and will have extended it. Shadowglow, I think, with a 4th place, will still be relatively near in contention, but Russell is just showing phenomenal all-around speed and being able to put it into results. He has always had the speed. He's a veteran in LOE D1, but ultimately this season he's just able to put it all together, and he's making himself a very decent championship lead. We will see if we can hold on to it, but just coming back to that race, Jonathan, it was pretty intriguing all the way through. We maybe didn't get the most out-and-out wheel-to-wheel action, but what we did see was, thanks to different strategies and, yes, a lot of safety cars, we saw everything flip-flopping. It looked as though Verstappen was the favourite for the win for some time, but ultimately the drivers that took that pit stop onto the first safety car, the second one set them back, and then the drivers that were fighting it out in the first stint at the front came back to the fore. So we had those changing fortunes, and ultimately fortune was a big factor in this race, but I think that Russell, you'd have to say, was a constant up at the sharp end here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was just a case of make the most of the strategy you've got. These guys who can work on the fly, do the best situation they've been given, who are going to just work their way towards the front, and that is exactly what Russell did, combined with a humongous amount of raw pace. I mean, to pull away from a driver like Pease that much in that few laps on the same tyres is just phenomenal. The gaps he was pulling is completely insane, especially under the pressure, potentially winning. So Russell showing on the raw pace, he is quite possibly the fastest driver in LOE Division 1, without question. Well, LOE full stop. Division 1, of course, going to have the fastest drivers, but himself just cut above the rest. But yeah, a wonderful last couple of laps. And in general, the whole strategy coming into play, you do the 2-stop, the 3-stop, what can you do on the fly? It was a marvellous race, all coming together for that last couple of laps of chaos.
It certainly was, and I know that you have another, hopefully marvellous race to cover very, very soon, so I won't keep you waiting for so long. We'll see. I don't think the standings are going to be updated just yet. That would be a phenomenal turnaround. But we can certainly verify that Russell is still our championship leader with a 4th win in 7 Grand Prix. He is romping away at the moment after a slightly enduring start to the season. But I think that is going to be just about all said and done for this race. We've reached the halfway point of the season. 7 rounds left to go, and the next one next week is coming to you from Albert Park. A lot of symmetry then, in fact, with the real life calendar, which is quite cool. But that is where you'll be having our next round 8 of the championship in a week's time. Be sure not to miss it. But I think with just about everything said and done for tonight, then, for round 7 of the D1 championship here in LOE, from myself and Jonathan, it is goodbye, and until next time, we'll see you later.